Alrighty, we should be go. Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another Moonshire Monday. I'm very excited to get back to it. This past week I actually didn't make too much progress, so we're going to be working on some pixel art today. There's a lot of specific tools and items and things that I want to be working on, and I really like working on that stuff on stream. I've been enjoying pixel art and doing all this stuff with you guys. It's a lot of extra nice community. So I'm seeing a lot of folks in the chat already. Mariah, Adele, Variable Core, Wolf, let's see, Max KFF5P. Sorry, that was a little bit hard for me to read. It Z Das Religion. Roy BGB, welcome back. Thank you again for being a member. Appreciate that. The Real Danny and Albino, welcome into the chat. Welcome into the stream. I'm excited to do another pixel art stream. I have a few things in mind that I'm going to be working on. I got some tools. Mainly is the thing I'm going to be starting with. Sorry, I should have warmed up a little bit. I'm kind of out of it. So what I'm going to be working on specifically is the weapons all have icons, and I probably want to adjust some of these too, but you might notice that some of them are missing. So let me, if I do this, so there's things like the bucket, and there's missing icons for these. So what I want to do today is just kind of get started on improving or working on some of these icons. Just had a final exam for college, and now I can watch the rest of Moonshire Monday, even though I'm a few weeks behind on streams. Hey, well, I'm happy that you're here, and I hope that your final exam went well. First time here, welcome in, Real Clutch. Thank you for being here. It's mostly just a lot of time spent doing pixel art and doing level design, talking about design choices and mechanics. And that is something that I'd also like to talk about today a little bit too, is how the different controls should be organized. Because last week we were talking about the crouch, and how I was thinking about maybe the crouch should be something more interesting, because just crouching, I mean, it's really cool to be able to do the crouch jump. So I definitely want to keep that, but maybe the crouch could also be like a run. So any ideas that people have for that, I'm all for. Yeah, so the past few streams I've been showing off the verticality in the game. And that's kind of what a lot of the tools and level design stuff is based off of, or is kind of feeding off of, is I wanted a lot of, I wanted the ability to jump up on these platforms, and allowing that has changed a lot. It has changed a lot in terms of how the levels are designed, and just in terms of how the code works. So there's been so many changes involved with that, and to help with making levels easier to create is kind of why I wanted to make the tools. So that's why you have things like the bucket, which is what makes you create water. So I could extend this pond out if I wanted to, and that all happens in real time. The hitboxes are still messed up, but you can change the tiles and stuff, and I think it works pretty nice. So the game is gonna have more of like a, I don't want to say sandbox component to it, but I think that changing the terrain and the levels is going to be kind of a small part of the game, at least. But the thing about making a level design thing like this is it helps me a lot with making these levels, because before I was designing it all in tiled, which tiled is okay. It works well, actually. It's really easy to integrate, but any of the game objects, like you can see in here, all these pins, they represent like the trees or the boxes or the plants, and they just don't show up in tile because it's not connected really with the engine. So now it's kind of all built in together. It's morning, yeah, where I am. I live in the US. About speedruns, if there are bugs people are using to speedrun, would I fix the bug or make it some kind of OP mechanic or keep it? During the course of development, it's probably going to be fixed. After release, it would not be fixed. But the thing is, there are bugs that we've found in the game before that are like speedrun tactics, and I kind of just leaned into it. The wave dashing is an example of that. So in the Steam demo that's out currently, you can let's see, you can wave dash by changing or dropping your weapon. Or what is the key? You roll and then let's see, you roll twice, I think. You roll twice in a row, and that's what lets you wave dash. And that was like a intended mechanic that I put in there. Roll then pick up. Okay, that's what it was. I couldn't quite remember. It's been quite a while since I played the published Steam demo. I've been playing this new version for quite a while. Also, I'm noticing that some of the frames are dropping. Hopefully it's not that big of a deal. So again, the thing I want to work on today is speedrunning communities have their own rules about which bugs to exploit. Yeah, I know that it kind of depends on the category and things like that. So... But, well, my goal for the game, I want the game to be clean as possible. I don't want it to have bugs. But if there are bugs that make the game more fun, then I will keep them. That's the truth. I wouldn't keep a bug just to facilitate speedruns, but if it was a bug that made playing the game more fun and interesting, then I would definitely keep it, because I just want the game to be more fun. Let's enjoy the music for now. I mean, yeah, sure. I am a big fan of this song. The thing is, when I'm playing like Nintendo music, I always think it's important to provide content over top of it, because I'm not trying to like spread the music or anything like that. I'm just playing it as part of the background of my game, or of my streams, not my game. My game has my own custom music. Like if that exists yet. No, I haven't done that yet. I need to put that in. I think that would be really cool. So let's go ahead and add icons for these. So there's a few of them. There's this. This is the bucket. I guess I could draw a little bucket. That wouldn't be too hard to do. Then this one is... Oh. Is this working? Oh, and this is a rake. Yeah, I've been kind of struggling with this. So I wanted the rake to be the tool that you use to like add this grass texture to the ground. So it works. It's functional right now. But I don't know how to make a rake in pixel art. You don't want Nintendo's ninjas at my door. Well, that's the thing, is that Nintendo allows people to play their music on YouTube as like the background music, but they don't want you to just like upload the music untouched where people can steal it. That's not what they want. So as long as you respect their wishes with all that stuff. And it's the same with, it's not just Nintendo, it's any creator. If I'm playing someone's music on my stream, I want to have their permission to do so. I want to ask about something, sure. The level editor is in theme, is in game. So yeah, that's something I've been working on recently, is that I wanted it to be easier for me as the developer to edit these levels, because it was really annoying having to use like this external tool and you can't really see what the final product looks like. I really wanted a way to do this in-engine, in-game. So that's why I started working on like these tools. And the purpose of all these tools is just for level design purposes. So you can choose this tool and then like add more cliff sides like this. And it all happens in real time. I'm very proud of that. That works really nicely. And then you have this, which allows you to like put props into the level like that. And the goal is that this is how I will design levels, and it's also going to be how modders design levels. And also it could be part of the game itself. There could be parts of the game where you actually need to take the pickaxe and destroy some of these so you can get through or something. Obviously the tiles are a little bit buggy in certain parts, but I'm very happy that it's functional. Like the whole thing is functional. User levels leaked. I think that I would like to try and make that possible. I always wanted to have user levels available, but before I was planning to have it done through tiled, where people would have to use the same like pin system that I have. But it's just too clunky. It's too weird. So I've been spending a lot of time on this level editor stuff, and I really like it. I think it's a good direction for the game, because it's introduced some cool like gameplay mechanics, being able to change the terrain, and it's opened up a lot of possibilities for just like user-generated content. Was the main idea of the game. It started, dude, like the truth is the game's idea and goal has changed so many times over the course of development, where like I always wanted it to be like a Zelda-like game, but it's now kind of evolved into its own thing in a major way, where now that I have like level terrain changes and all these different weapons and tools and things. I think that there's a lot of possibilities, and I do want it to be moddable where people can make their own content. I think it would be cool to add a survival mode where players have to clear out an unlimited amount of enemies and see how long a player can last. Yeah, I think that would be really cool. The engine that I'm making with all of these mechanics, it opens up a lot of possibilities. Like you're saying, a survival mode could totally happen, and that'd be cool. And it would work. It would work in this format, I think. But that's not the main goal. The main goal for me is to create this game as a Zelda-like game and then open it up for modding and open it up for like in-game custom like tweaks and custom levels and things like that. So I still have a focus in mind for what I want the game to be like. Multiplayer, yeah, there's going to be multiplayer. I was showing this last week how there's you can have multiple players in the game. Wait, how did I do that? It was H. So I can spawn other players into the game like that. Look, I have a little friend. Get out of here. Get. I have loved seeing this game grow and change. Thank you, I appreciate you saying that. It has changed quite a bit, and I would say it doesn't have very much of a sense of direction. A very clear sense of direction. It's changed direction so much. For the better, I think, because all of the changes I'm a big fan of. Everything that I add, I'm thinking this is actually good for the game, and I'm happy with the things that I'm doing. But at the same time, it is taking a long time. Like, if I was more focused with what I wanted to do with this game, then it would probably be done by now. But I've changed directions so many times. Game art versus game logic, which is more important? I mean, they're both important. Because if you go on Steam and like browse games, it's the game art that sells the game, and it's the game logic that keeps people playing it. So they are both important. Which game engine? This is Love2D. So will there be pre-made maps made by you and there's a story to follow, or levels we clear, which also introduces the possibility of user-created levels? I want it to be a main, dense, kind of like small core world that I design with like main game, with a main plot that is like somewhat short, like 3 or 4 hours, I don't know, however long it takes to get through, like a core game that reveals the full world, and then from there you'll unlock all of the tools so that you can terraform and change all of it. I think of it kind of like Animal Crossing New Horizons. In Animal Crossing New Horizons, you go through the whole game without terraforming. You just play your island normally and experience the game. And then when you reach like towards the end of the game, you unlock terraforming, and then suddenly you can change your island to be whatever you want. I think that it would kind of be something similar to that. You may be the best Love2D dev out there. No, I mean, that's really nice of you to say, but there are some really well-established ones, because I haven't even released any commercial products yet. There's games like Balatro or Move or Die that have actually made money. I personally have not. Question of the day, Google or Microsoft Edge? I use them both. I actually have both of them installed. At the moment, I'm streaming from Microsoft Edge, but I have Google installed. I use Google Chrome as well. I use Firefox as well. I use them all. Really, there's not that much of a difference anymore. Back in the day, it was noticeable that like Microsoft Edge wasn't as good, but ever since they switched to the Chromium model, they really are not that much different. What do I think of the art style in Undertale? I do like the art style in Undertale, especially the art style in the battles. Because in the battles of Undertale, like it uses that like full white art style with the tweening effects using Spriter. I really like it. I think it's nice. The overworld sprites, it's hit or miss. I think that the character models in like the battles look a lot better. Will humans also attack, or all of them will be peaceful? What I wanted to do is where the human characters, if you attack them, I would like it so that they could attack back. I think that would be fun. Just learning Lua, any advice for you? Just keep at it and stick with simple games to ease yourself into it, because it's just challenging. Even if the language is easy, or, I mean, I don't know if I would say Lua is easy, but there are easy aspects of it. It's still challenging. It's still hard. So like I was saying earlier, I want to work on the pixel art over here for these icons. So I have things like the bucket and the rake. And this rake item is also something that we should take a look at. Mentioned Pong. I mean, sure, Pong mentioned. Let's go back over to this rake. So let's work on these items. Also, I wanted to show this shovel icon. This is something that I made on stream as well, and it went through a few more iterations, and I really like how it turned out. Because the version I made on stream was not as clean, and I really like the checker design I added for the texture. The outline and the shine around the edges is really nice. I think I did a good job with this. So this icon is what I'm kind of gonna go for with all of the weapons and tools. And I have this rake here. And by the way, I'm open to alternatives. Should it be a rake? Because here's what the rake does. In the levels, you can pull out the rake, and you can add like this grass texture. This is how you're going to be designing levels, as you equip the appropriate weapon or item or tool, and this is how you like add all the decorations and stuff. So I thought a rake made sense to do that, adding like the ground texture. I think that makes sense. But designing a rake in pixel art, it turns out it's not easy. Because like, how do I make this? I need to add like the spokes. And by the way, I'm talking about like a plastic rake. I should probably pull up a picture. Rake. I'll pull up plastic rake. Whoops. I'm trying to find an image. Something like this. Should I try Love 2D right away or later? Like make a CLI project or something and then try Love 2D? It doesn't matter. My advice is just to try out anything and make a small game with it and see if you like it. So if you're interested in Love 2D, I would say try it. Just download it. It's free. It's free and open source. So just try it. And if you like it, keep using it. And if you don't like it, try something else. Because they're all free. Like they're all free to try. The more I look at this, the more like this is the problem with pixel art, is that you have a limitation in the number of pixels you have. I don't know if I'm going to be able to communicate the spokes of a rake clearly through pixel art. Yeah, rakes have quite a bit of detail. How do I make my UI? The UI is all custom, so all of the UI comes from this. Whoops. I have a UI file, and this is all custom. The UI is actually kind of clever because I made this layout system. So the layout is a definition for different like forms, like the menu. I can define that all the buttons are organized this way, and it's centered. And now all of the UIs can be defined with really like simple logic like this. Menu welcome, and it tells us like it's showing the graphic, and then you can apply different parameters to it. But this is all, again, this is all custom coded, where this layout gets loaded in via blocks. So this block will, or actually the layout generates blocks, and then the blocks generate widgets, which are buttons. So it's just like a nested structure of a bunch of UI elements. Again, that is all custom coded. It's really, it's UI is a hard aspect of game development. It probably is less hard in a full-blown engine like Unity or Godot, because those have like built-in UI components, and I think that would probably be easier to work with compared to doing it all custom coded like I'm doing. But also, when it's custom coded, I'm able to understand it fully, and I can integrate it better with the world. That is a challenging aspect with UIs and stuff, is that currently, like, if you look at the UI here, it goes over top of everything, but it is integrated with the world. Like, it is still the same pixel art. And then there are UIs that are actually fully integrated with the world, like the speech bubbles. I can't show that at the moment. Use the rake to rake leaves in an area, and maybe it could reveal a coin or secret or something. Yeah, I think that's something like using fire to burn away some ground texture. My goal really with the tools is less that these tools will be used for problem solving and navigating. I think that the tools will be used more for just level design. I think that it's going to be used for the sandbox aspect of the game, where after completing a significant portion of the story where the world opens up, I think that it would be cool to introduce some of these weapons where people can start terraforming, or even that I could have specific parts of the world that are kind of like barren, where you can build up your own stuff there. W Music, by the way, I love this song too, yeah. How many people are working on the game? It's genuinely an inspiration for me watching you work on this on stream. Thank you for saying that. It is just me. There are a few other people that do some help once in a while. I commission a few folks for pixel art. I commission a few folks for like testing and minor like artwork and illustrations. Like the Steam artwork was, I commissioned that. But generally, it is mostly just me. I do all of the programming, and I do a lot of the pixel art myself, and all the level design and the writing and the music and the sound effects and all that stuff. I take care of myself. I'm a big fan of doing the solo dev life, but at the same time, when you choose to do solo dev, it does have a big restriction in how quickly you can get things done, because you are the bottleneck. And it also requires you to have a multitude of skills. If you're not good at any of those things, then it's going to be noticeable. Thankfully, And really, I'm starting to think more about offloading some of those things to other people, like sound effects, because there are people that dedicate their lives to making really, really good sound effects, while I don't. And same with music. I can make good music. I've made music for a lot of time, and I have a lot of experience doing that, but there are people that have more experience and can probably make better music. I already love my art style. I'm working on some similar genre. Still a long way to go. No worries. Well, thank you for saying that. I like the art style too. It took kind of a while to establish, like, the thick outlines is a big thing, and the minimal shading, because a lot of the time, this is actually a funny thing, is when I commission people for artwork, for pixel art, they will provide me pixel art that's really, really good and high quality, to the point where it's too high quality, as if you can imagine it. In fact, I would almost say, like, these barrels are almost an example of that. Because if you look at the texture and shading of this barrel, it's a little bit more detailed than the player. The player has 3 colors, and I guess this also has the light, middle, and dark. But it has 3 colors of brown and 3 colors of gray. It might actually have 4 colors of brown. But the barrel has a lot more detail to it, where almost it looks like it's too detailed. The music had some perfect timing. Put the game inside Love folder and then try to merge the game using Windows Shell. Yeah, there's a Love 2D. Look up Love 2D game distribution. Game distribution. You actually can't Google it anymore because Love 2D's wiki SEO got screwed up. So if you Google Love 2D game distribution, I don't think it comes up anymore. Oh, it does. It does. So if you Google Love 2D game distribution, it comes up. I swear for a while, there were no Love 2D responses coming up in DuckDuckGo or Google. Have you got a chat ban? I don't know what you're talking about. I just found my channel a few days back, and it's a big inspiration, so thank you. I'm feeling super lost in CS/job. Any advice? Yeah, I understand that. It seems like it's a really tough time right now because you're hearing a lot about layoffs and competition with AI. It does seem really challenging, and my main advice is, I guess I don't really know. I would love to hear about what your experience so far is, because when I was in college, I graduated from college in 2017, and at the time, people were saying, like, the job market is competitive, it's challenging, trying to get a job is hard, and it was. I had internship experience, but getting my first job out of college, I had to do the shotgun approach, is what I called it, where you apply everywhere. You are not picky at all. You give yourself, like, you say, I'm willing to move literally anywhere, get myself started anywhere. And that's what I said. I wanted to stay here because I live in Illinois, and I wanted to stay in Illinois, but I was not able to. I had to move. I was not able to find a job in tech near where I lived, and so I just applied to anywhere in the country that I possibly could, and I found a pretty decent job, and I moved to the St. Louis area, and I worked for Boeing. And then from there, it was the same process where my job at Boeing was good, but I'm like, there's other, like, I wanted to work more on, like, web stuff or, like, cutting edge tech. And I was looking more at other companies, and it was the same thing. I looked at any possible job that seemed reasonable and better than what I was working at currently, and I just applied. And getting the job there's 2 challenges. There is getting noticed by the recruiters, which is like the application process, making sure that your resume is really good, where you have, like, projects and internships and experience. Really, they care mostly about job experience, your working experience. I'd say for every project, like, you'd have to have, like, 10 projects for it to be any, like, I don't know what the one-to-one comparison would be, but a recruiter cares a lot about your work experience, and they don't really care too much about other stuff. And then the other side of it is, once you actually get the interview, then there is passing the interview process, because the interviews for CS and tech degrees or for, like, software developer roles, depending on the company, like the really competitive companies, the interview process is cutthroat. Sorry, is very hard. It is very, very challenging, where they ask you, like, these complex coding problems, and then you have to solve them on a whiteboard, and that whole process just takes a lot of practice to get used to. It's really, really not easy to figure all that stuff out, because college doesn't really prepare you for that. The process of coding on a whiteboard it's so weird that you have to practice for it explicitly. I don't think my CS degree kind of helped me that much with it. Also, I'll play the demo. I'm actually an upcoming developer, and I also use Love. How do I actually implement stuff from Asprite since I compiled it yesterday? How do you implement stuff from Asprite? So Asprite is just a level editor. Or excuse me, it's just an image editor. All that Asprite is an image editor. It's the same thing as MS Paint or Photoshop. There's no difference. Because the result is that you're going to export the image as an image file. Because if you just save as, this creates an Asprite file, .asprite or .ace. What this is, this includes like all of the layers. It might include your history. It probably includes like your palette. It includes a lot of all the different frames that you're having included in this process. But the game itself does not read the multiple layers. Actually, let me find a better example than this rake, which by the way, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to figure out. The rake is kind of a challenge. If I open up the hero, if you look at these files, there are a bunch of image files, but I also do have the .asprite file. And if I open this up, this is what the .asprite file looks like. We can see that there are lots of layers down here. We have all the different layers, and each one is contained all within this Asprite file. But your game engine is not going to be looking at this Asprite file. It's not going to be looking at these layers here. Instead, what you do is you export each layer individually. You export everything as a sprite sheet. So I have the head layer, the cloak layer, the belly layer. Or you could use some kind of software that extracts this image data from the Asprite file. But essentially what's happening is that this Asprite file contains the image data, but it's not the image itself. You need to export the images and then use the images in Love2D. So like a PNG or a JPEG or something like that, that's what you load into Love2D or whatever game engine. All the game engines are the same, where they take like a PNG image and then they display that. Or if it's a 3D model, I don't know what file type that is. Hello everyone, have a good day. Thank you for stopping in, PHDev. Look at rotating sandwiches. Rotating sandwiches. How can I stop people from looking at my source code when distributing my Love2D game? There's not really a good way to do that. Do I make the sprite sheet by hand? Yeah, I had a tiny bit of help with the sprite sheet, but no, I think I did the vast majority of my, on it. Excuse me, I'm stuttering. I did the vast majority of it on my own. Stop people from looking at the source code. I'll go ahead and show that real quick. So there's another Love2D article, Love2D source obfuscation. Okay? So there's this concept in game development, and this applies to every engine and every way that you're distributing software, is what that person was asking about is it would be ideal if people couldn't look at your code. If people couldn't just take the assets, like these sprites. I don't really want people to just take these sprites out of the game, because then these image files will be floating around there, or same with the music. I really don't want people to take the code files out of the game. I'd rather it just be obfuscated. Obfuscated means that it's still there, but it's not easily accessible. Obfuscation is just a practice of making it harder to access. There's no possible way to truly obfuscate your code to the point where people can't access it. It even says so on the site. While these tools may obfuscate the code, a veteran programmer will be able to reverse engineer the code similar to those mentioned earlier. And I think that's true with AAA games as well. I think most AAA games, even by billion-dollar companies, even those games get decompiled because people are clever. There are some games that haven't been cracked, like GTA 5 I think has not been cracked yet, but there are lots of them that have, and even though they invest millions of dollars into protecting it, to prevent it from getting cracked, it still does. Thanks for that answer. No, I'm not my first gig right now. I'm at my first gig right now as a data analyst, and I hate it, man. LOL. It's soul crushing, but I really appreciate it. Do I work in game dev full time? I worked with data analysts when I was at Microsoft, because I'm not. It's hard for me to answer that question because I don't like to say that I work full time in game development, because this doesn't earn money. it's my history is that I was a CS graduate, computer science, and then I worked for Boeing and Microsoft and did a software career. And all of that was in like web dev and cloud computing stuff. It wasn't in game development. But during that time, I was making games. Like, I was really, really into game development my whole life. I have videos on YouTube from 2009. I'm really into game development and I've been doing it this whole time. But it was never my career. It was never my job professionally. Because, not for any particular reason, it's just that I saw a lot more opportunities in the software space in general. I worked at Boeing. Yeah, I worked there for a little over a year. It wasn't for very long. So today, I do work full-time on this game development stuff, but calling it a career or a profession is a stretch because I make some money from YouTube. I make some money from Udemy, my courses, but it's not enough to cover my cost of living. I'm able to live because of my software career. I saved up money and it lived well below my means so that I could kind of live comfortably now so I can get this game created and hopefully make money after that. And you know, if it doesn't make money after that, I'll try and find other ways to make money. But the truth is, the only way I'm able to do this full time is not because game development itself makes a lot of money for me. It's because I was very, very methodical with preparing for it. Hope I didn't design the planes. No comment. My comment got ignored. I'm sorry for that, Mythical Rock. If you can say it again. How long does it actually take to learn Lua to have the same level of skill as someone like you? It's not necessarily that I worked with Lua for a long time that made me good with Lua. It's that I've just been coding for a long time. Because I started in high school, or sorry, I guess I started with Game Maker when I was a kid, and that's like drag and drop coding. So the way that you get really good at coding or whatever you want to do is just you do it all the time. And I've been using Lua for a while, and I am really good at it with Lua, but I've been coding for even longer. And if you know one coding language, it works. The process of learning a second language is a lot easier when you already know the first language. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. So, as long as you're coding in any capacity, it doesn't even matter if it's Lua or whatever specific language, you're getting some experience. You're learning about logic, you're figuring out how to properly organize files and classes and making sure that you know how to build software end to end. That is a skill in and of itself, beyond just the programming language choice. Really, I don't really look at Rotating Sandwiches. It's a website. I don't think I want to do that on stream. I'm not sure what that is. Love the Strong Motor's Mask is the best. I love the song too. I have just finished a 3D Maze Explorer. If you want to check it out, I can send you the zip, or to be safe collab. You don't have to download it. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to download anything. I'm sorry about that. I also like to make a game, but I am not good in coding and I procrastinate. So how do you keep going? You have to get started right away, because the only way to get to... There's no shortcut, is the truth. You want to look at Rotating... I don't know what that is, so I'm not going to look at it. I know a lot of languages, but only like 5% of them. I don't really see much emphasis on like knowing a language. In fact, here's an example of this. When I interviewed for Microsoft, I interviewed in my interview using the language Java, because that's what all of my like interview prep went into. Is I prepped using Java. And at Microsoft, they don't use Java at all. They use C#. They use the .NET stack, which is similar to Java, but it's not Java. So why is it that they would allow me to interview for their company using a language that they themselves don't use? That doesn't make sense, does it? Or maybe it's because languages don't really matter that much. When you know one language, it's really easy to transition over to another language. They're all really similar. They have their quirks, they have their differences, but when you know Java, you already know like 99% of C#. What's my least favorite language? Probably Java, if I'm being honest. Unless you want to count like assembly or something like that. They'll teach you for sure, that's awesome. Yeah, when you start any job, you're going to start not really knowing anything. Even if you know, like, even if you knew C# and TypeScript going into your Microsoft job, that wouldn't have helped that much. Like, genuinely. It would have saved me maybe like a day of getting used to the syntax of C# and TypeScript, but it would not help me with all of the like crazy software that you have to work with in association with that. No assembly slander. Yep, sorry for saying that. It's not that I dislike assembly, it's just that it's challenging to work with. Why did I get into coding? I think that I got into it just because of games. When I was a kid, I wanted to work on games and make my own games. I started with Game Maker, and that's a program that anyone can use, even a kid. I was in 5th grade or 4th grade, and it's like drag and drop coding. And even though it's not coding, it is still like programming. You're using logic using drag and drop like scripts, and it does still transfer in a way to learning regular programming, because when I was in high school, I took a Java class, and I do feel like the Game Maker experience transitioned nicely. Do I have any interest in the Game Awards, and if so, who's my pick for Game of the Year? It's definitely Expedition 33. I'm definitely going to be watching. I watch every year, and I always pay attention. I like Hades 2 more. I had more fun playing Hades 2, but I personally think Expedition 33 is going to win. And I love those games. I think that this is a really good lineup this year. Big fan. What is my take on vibe coding, and do I really rely regularly on LLMs for coding? That's a good question. And the truth is, I do use like the LLM, like the the agent, the GitHub Copilot once in a while, and I would say it's gotten, my opinion on Copilot and like vibe coding, AI coding, and using these tools. What the heck? It's crashed. Look, the whole program crashed. I can't do anything. That's annoying. My opinion on that, great, has changed in the past year, because I feel like it's really evolved a lot in the past year. The way that these AI agents are directly plugged into the code base itself, and how it's able to see all of the files at once, and how you open up this chat window. Dude, it crashed again. Okay, there it goes. There it goes. So this I don't even remember what this was. It looks like I was asking it to debug something. But what I'm getting at is there are some definite uses for it. And the caveat, though, is when you ask an LLM or ask a any sort of AI agent to create something for you, that means that you are not gaining the experience from creating that thing. And the reason why I'm mentioning that now is because a lot of the people in the audience are kind of starting out, or they're within their first few years of doing coding or development or anything like that. And genuinely, for those people, I do not think you should be using AI at all. Because if you're using, I equate it to, it's the same thing as asking someone else to do the work for you. When you're running, like if you're leading a team of developers, of course, I want to have the artist doing that work, I want to have the programmer doing that work, and I want to have the musician doing that work. But if the musician is doing that work instead of me, then they are going to get a lot more experience creating the music, because they're the ones that's doing it. It's not me that's doing it. And it's the same with coding. If I ask the AI agent to code something for me, it's nice because it offloads the work from me and it automates the process, but I didn't do it. It did it. It did the hard part of sifting through my files and learning the ins and outs of the code base. It figured out the quirks, it debugged the issues, and it implemented the solution. If I went through that process myself, I would have picked up on some new information. I would have gleaned some skills. I would have gleaned some experience that now I don't have, because I just asked someone else to do it. And what I'm getting at is there are times when it's appropriate to ask someone else to do your work for you, and there are times when it's not appropriate. And if you are in the learning phase in any capacity, I do not think it's appropriate, because if it gives you the answer, if it does the hard part for you, I don't think you're going to be internalizing a lot of that information nearly as much as if you went through the challenge of doing it yourself. And I understand when you do it yourself, it's going to be a lot slower, it's going to be a lot crummier, it's going to be a lot more like rocky. And that's the point, is that when you overcome that rockiness, that's what teaches you things. The reason I feel so competent and confident with coding right now is because I went through a whole career without AI. Like, I was being paid a lot of money at these companies to solve problems that are really, really hard to solve. And I had to do it, because if I didn't do it, I would get fired probably. Or if you screw up too often, that's what leads to you getting laid off. So I had to solve these problems, and guess what? I solved them. I did a good job. When I was working, I did a good job. I solved some hard problems. And being able to do that is not something that you can do a shortcut towards. AIs are really helpful tools because they can solve some of those hard challenges for you. But when it comes to like managing a project end to end, I don't really think that it's going to be a hindrance for a lot of people. The learned helplessness of AI vibe coding feels pretty palpable. Asking AI for what this does or what this is very helpful. It can be. It's the same as Googling something or asking your friend. If I ask my friend, what's the answer to this problem, they can tell me and they can explain what the answer is. And I can say, oh, that's awesome. Thank you for explaining that. And maybe I would have learned something from that. But the alternative is I do all the research myself, is I search through the code. I search through all of the different resources and I learn a bunch of information to get all the context needed. And then I discover the solution for myself. I think that I'm going to learn and internalize that information a lot better compared to the AI or my friend, whoever it is, telling me what the answer is. That's the whole point. I know they cried at Microsoft the day they lost you. So I heard. I hope. I hope. Like, they said I could always come back if I wanted to. So they were very kind, and I loved working there. Been minor league coding for 6 years. Got really into it about 8 months ago. No progress. Well, I think that you should give yourself a little bit more credit, because if you've been coding, like, let's say that you code a little bit every day, I guarantee that over the course of 8 months, you will be better than where you started. If you feel like you're not making progress, that kind of makes me think that you're setting challenges for yourself that are way too difficult. It reminds me of people that set out in game development and their first game is like their dream game. Like their first game is a game that kind of looks like mine. And if your first game is a game that looks like mine, where you have like a character that walks and jumps around and there's all of these like big levels with a moving camera and transitions and collisions and physics and enemies and AI, there's all this complicated stuff, it's not going to work out. It's going to be really, really too complicated. And that's why I always say Pong, like hashtag Pong mention, because that is genuinely where it needs to start if it's going to be any kind of feasible outcome. And I always talk about Atari Breakout being a really good example. And I'm going to go ahead and play it on stream because I think that it's a good example. When people think about what their first game should be, this was what my first game was for Love 2D. It's not this exact version. I made my own like clone of this. And you might look at this and say, this isn't the type of game I want to make. Like, I kind of want to make like an RPG or something where I can move around or explore. And this isn't that. And I might argue and say, it actually is. Because all the stuff that's happening on screen right now is stuff that happens in my game. You have collisions, you have like variables keeping track of values like score and health and lives, and there's a UI, and there's speed, and there's the little effects. And if it saves data, then it has saving and loading. It has the power-ups. And yet all of this stuff is just from a really simple Breakout clone. And yet all of these things are things that I use in my game today. The demo isn't multiplayer. Yeah, the demo has been released a long time ago, so it's just kind of outdated to be discussing it, unfortunately. Have I ever made games without using object-oriented programming? Small games, sure. I would say that the games in my Udemy course or some of my like tutorials, I would say that those kind of are close to being something not object-oriented, because object-oriented implies that you have like classes and inheritance, which Lua by itself doesn't really have that. It's not an object-oriented language. But tables being as flexible as they are, it allows you to kind of pretend like it is. So my game, Moonshire, is object-oriented, though the way that I organize the code base is object-oriented, because tables are, like, you can assign values to tables using things that are like inheritance. It's not actually inheritance, because inheritance implies that, like, the code base itself is providing that sort of stuff. This actually is a good looking Pong. This is like an elaborate version. This is not my version, by the way. This is a version that's hosted on Google. So if you Google Atari Breakout, it comes up with this game. And that's why I always show it. The game is addictive. I know it is. Every time I show it on stream, I end up playing it for more than I anticipated it. Am I at least interested in the GitHub so you can see the code on there? If not, that's perfectly fine. Message me after stream. But yeah, I don't want to look at viewer submitted code or projects, because that opens me up to vulnerabilities. I don't like clicking on people's links that they send me or unzipping projects, because there's risks involved with doing that, especially while I'm streaming. That is not something that I'm willing to be doing. Am I making any new tutorials soon? I wouldn't say I have anything planned at the moment, but the most recent shaders tutorial, I think that I'm glad that I was able to get that out. It has been a while since I produced something like that. If you have any suggestions on something that you'd like to hear about, shaders was something that I really wanted to work on for a long time, so I'm glad I finally got that out the door. I'm not quite sure what I would work on next. There's all kinds of things that I could work on with Love2D with a tutorial with that. Because the Love2D, the Love2D tutorial series I have on my channel is really nice. I think it's still good and up to date and has really good information for it. When Love 12 comes out, I'm going to make a new physics tutorial. That is one thing that's going to be different. Enemies, please. I mean, I don't think I can show enemies right now. I think that I have... What was it? I have, like, a dummy I can spawn in at the moment. But things have been changing so much that I actually can't show that. Where was that? It was under input. I need an easier way to spawn this stuff. This is part of why I wanted to have, like, the tooling stuff, where it would be cool if, like, this pencil object. Right now, the pencil is used to spawn, like, these barrels. I think I'm going to change this so it's like a hammer instead of a pencil. But I think it would be cool if the pencil could be used to change lots of small details, because it's kind of annoying that I have to keep going back, like, into my code and changing small details so I can spawn things in. Because right now, all I want to do is make it so that I can spawn in a dummy. So instead of H, let's do K. Because this is really hacky the way I'm doing this. Also, let's zoom in. It's kind of small. Am I currently using shaders in Moonshire? Yes. This scene here does have shaders running. You can see the light source around the anvil, which, you know, that's arbitrary. I don't think I'm gonna have a light source around the anvil. It's just for testing. But it does have shaders running. In fact, there are also shaders that have the color mixing change, which unfortunately I removed the UI to adjust that. That's something else that changes under biome, I think. Where I have this forest, and for example, I could change let's bump the green all the way up to 2.1, and if I save and run, it's gonna make the game look really green. So this is what happens. That's what happens when you greenify the game, is it becomes very green. Oh, I hate that. So yeah, the shaders are working. It has this color mixing where every biome has its own set of, like, saturation and brightness. What's the pixel ratio for my items? The pixel ratio. Nothing is really set in stone. Like, people ask me all the time, like, what's the resolution of my character? And like, if I hover over this character, it says here that it's 13 by 16, but every piece is different. Like, this one is 14 by 14, and the frame itself is, like, I don't know, something by 21, I think. It's 24 by 24, I think. or 20 feet. It might be 23 by 23. I can't remember. But what I'm getting at is it's kind of flexible. So these icons right now are 20 by 20, but it kind of changes. Barry, thank you so much for the donation. Absolute Game Dev, thank you for the stream. I really do appreciate the donation. I unfortunately don't know how much money that is in USD. If anyone can convert that for me, I would appreciate that. But that's really, really kind of you. Thank you. Having a menu pop up to swap tools may end up being a bit disruptive. I completely agree. At $2, thank you. I appreciate you. Have you thought about making shortcuts, redial menus for changing object place to tool hold? Yes, I have. In fact, I do have something like that in place. I'll go ahead and show that. Is if I open up the save file, for the game in player, here, look at this. So I made it so the player's weapon property that gets saved to the save data it has the option where you can set the save data and save it as a string, and this will be the weapon that you are holding when you load the game, or it can be a list. And so in this example, the player has two weapons. It has the great axe and the great sword, and in fact it keeps track of which weapon slot will be loaded in when we start the game. And when it says 1, but I think it should start on 2. Oh, I know why. It's because, yeah, it is right. So it loads the game. I'm holding the axe, which in the data is the first weapon, which, again, weapon slot 1, we are indexed at 1, so index 1 is the first index. And what about my sprite sheet? What about it? And what I thought about, or have I ever thought about an ending scene? Not for now. I mean, like, that's kind of a bit too far off in the future, I think. Then, so I also have weapon swapping. So I showed how I have the great axe and the great sword equipped. If I press shift, it allows you to swap on the fly. And this is something I'm kind of excited about, where you'd be able to, like, combo different attacks into each other, or different weapons. There's an offset issue with these effects for some reason. But, like, you could slash and then slash into an axe. Or maybe like that. You can combo between weapons like that. So you could do, like, a heavy axe slash into the sword stab, because it maintains your combo. The sword looks like this, where the first hit is always slash, and then the second hit is a stab. So if you do slash, stab, and then the great axe is always slashes, but you can combo these into each other by swapping. So if I use I can do this, slash, and keep it up like this. So, like, if you always wanted to maintain slashes, you could do slash, and then, oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And then, like, this is a really simple example, because in this example, the great axe only has one attack. There's no combo here, while this great sword only has 2 attacks. But I think that some weapons could have a longer combo, and I think that it could open up a really neat opportunity for different ways that you can mix and match things together. It's a rhythm game now, a little bit, yeah. The game's gonna be so good when it comes out. I hope so. I appreciate you saying that. Just the ratio of the sprite sheet, I can't even get it right. I'm not actually sure what you mean. So the sprite sheet is always a grid where every frame is the same size. So I think the size of this one was 24 by 24. So you can see the blue grid now. The sprite sheet is literally just a big image that is a big grid. So in my case, I decided, okay, I want the player's frame to be within this 24 by 24 pixel area. That's arbitrary, by the way. It could have been this size, and it would have been fine, or it could have been tighter. It doesn't make any difference. The reason I made it 24 by 24 is because I thought, you know, maybe in the future, what if there's a frame that's, like, really tall, or a frame that's really wide? I thought it would be nice to have a little bit of extra buffer in there. Like this one, he spreads out his arms. So, like, what if there's one where it's, like, really, really tall? It might be nice to have some extra padding in there. So that's why the sprite sheet is organized this way. And then when I load the sprite sheet in through mob draw, or this might actually be in hero. This is probably in hero. Here they are. I have the animap. That's a cute name that I gave it. But this is what the this is how I define all the animations for the player character. I have the all of these are the different animations, and all of them just use frames from the sprite sheet. Like this bump animation, it uses 3 frames: 6-3, 3-1, and 2-1. So we can go over to the sprite sheet, or the sprite sheet. It was 6-3, 3-1, 2-1. So 6-3. We go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. So this is the first frame. And then it was 3, 2, and then 2, 1, I think. Yeah. So it uses those 3 frames from the sprite sheet, and it has how much time is spent on each frame, what happens after the animation completes, which I'm thinking about removing this, by the way, because some mobs won't have a bump animation, for example. Oh, when's Moonshine Monday? Probably not going to be doing any Moonshine Mondays. Can you make it online game with proximity chat? I don't like, that's a very ambitious thought, but I do want it to have co-op online via Steam friends. I do think I'm going to have that. Don't you think it's counterintuitive that when you //stab, you get pulled towards the direction? It depends on if you collide with something. So if I spawn in... Oh, shoot. How did I do that? And I need to put this in a different position. X equals, yeah, like that. Okay, so, yes, when you slash forward, it does lunge you forward when you don't hit anything. But if you hit, say, an enemy... Ah, it didn't do it, it's broken! Okay, it does do it with the barrel. Okay, so let me at least try it with the barrel. Is that you get knockback when you hit something. I didn't. You're not getting enough knockback there, but at least it doesn't boost you forward. It's broken with the mob. But like you have a good call out, is that my goal is that when you slash forward, when you're attacking, it is a forward slash. But when you hit something, it's gonna bounce you back. So it's gonna have the best of both worlds, essentially. But some weapons actually do push you backwards, like the torch. Because the torch launches... Oh, it doesn't do it. I keep saying that these things are going to happen, and they don't happen. Let's go over to the torch. I want to make it so that the torch actually pushes you backwards. Action stab. I think I can override the self knockback factor. Boost. I'm trying to remember how this is defined, because it has self knockback factor, but that's not exactly what I want. I want something different. I want to be mob attack. I'm sorry, give me 1 moment while I figure this out. It's just when you attack, there's a forward momentum to it. Yeah, boost. So you can override the boost. So over in the weapon for the torch, I want to make it so the boost is actually negative, because I want it to go backwards. So let's see if that works. I think that should work. Yeah, didn't we change this with some AI some time ago? Maybe, I'm not quite sure if I remember. There we go, okay. So I think it makes sense to push the player backwards with this torch. Maybe not that much. That's probably a bit too much. Because in this case, you're like launching something out. It's the same as if you were like shooting a bow and arrow. It kind of like pushes you backwards because you're launching something. Favorite game? Probably like Link's Awakening is probably my favorite game. It's hard to say though. Or Melee. I like Smash Bros. Melee. Allfather, hi! Thank you for the donation. I haven't been around much. Hope everyone's having an amazing day. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for the donation. It's really kind of you. I'm happy to see you. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah, with the pushback. I like how the weapon system is set up now, where every weapon is like set up in this blueprints file, and making a new weapon is so easy. All you need to do is provide the sprite for it. So like if I go over to sprites and items and weapons, as long as there's a sprite for it, like the spear, I just have a sprite for the spear, and then I have a definition for a spear right here. You can define like, how is it held? It's held like a staff. Where's its handle axe, and how do you mount it? And then I guess these two things are actually totally optional. You don't even need those. That's just for like some extra flavor. And then these are the attacks. So the spear has 2 attacks, and it has a small stab, which does 1 damage, and then it has a thrust, which is a big stab that does 2 damage. And all of these like balancing things, like the it's SKB factor. This is the self knockback factor. I probably should have named it something different, but thankfully my brain knew what this meant. And another like motivating factor for why I made it this way is because I want people to be able to make their own weapons. I want people to make their own tools and stuff. It would be very cool if I had some mod support thing where people could just like open up a really simple image editor and draw in their own spear like that. Or maybe you want a great axe that has a bit more flair, or you want to design it with like a cool color in mind, like, ooh, we're gonna make the cool teal, or oh, this is the diamond great axe. This is the diamond great axe. It kind of looks like it. And then we'll make the handle purple. See, that's really cool. And then you could save this as like diamond axe, and then you can make a new category in this file, diamond axe, that has its own actions, its own damage, its own speeds, and its own effects and things like that. It'd be awesome. Favorite Sonic character? Ooh, I don't know. Maybe Knuckles. I'd have to think about it a little bit more though. Link Between Worlds was a lovely game. It's a great part 2 as Blade Runner. Like, who really seen part 2? It comes in renew the visual. I see what you're saying. I love Link Between Worlds because it changes the formula up a lot. It's very unique, where you can do the dungeons out of order and you like buy the upgrades. It's kind of strange, but I like it. I'm thinking of a strat where you great axe swing first, then use the torch to back up. Yeah, I think that would be really cool. And I'm thinking about like how there's the boomerang too. You'd be able to throw the boomerang and then attack with a different weapon while the boomerang's in the air. Lots of cool options like that. Also, I'm noticing that whenever I read people's chats, I like turn into like a weirdo where I can't talk. I do a lot better with stuttering these days. I do still stutter, but when I'm reading, I feel like that stutter comes right back, where I just can't read very well. I need to practice a lot more. The streams help out a lot with that. Overall, I love streaming because it's helped me a lot with practicing that stuff. Okay, let's get back to pixel art, because the name of the stream is live pixel art, and we haven't really been doing that. So let's go over to, I wanted to work on the icons for some of these items. Like, let's do the icon for the bucket. That should be easy. I'm pulling up the tools. So these are all the different tools I have in the game right now, and there's the bucket, and then I need to have an icon for it. So we're gonna make a new one. Bucket. We're gonna go ahead and do that. Jagger and Drummer, hi, welcome in. I don't know. Let's just draw something it's probably not going to look very good. And also, I don't know if I can keep the diagonal look to it, because if we look at the icons, all the icons are like diagonally facing. Okay, so they're all diagonal facing icons, but making a diagonal bucket, that might look weird. Let's try it. So let's start by grabbing this outline, and let's make a bucket shape. And I am gonna try and do the diagonal shape to it, like it's like leaned over. Maybe it can be pouring out some water. Oh man, I used to hate doing pixel art on stream because I was so... I don't want to say insecure, and I don't feel insecure about my pixel art. I think my pixel art is fine, but art is not my area of expertise, not by a long shot. So I get a little bit nervous, like, doing stuff like this on stream because it's not something I'm that good at. I'm kind of okay at it. There are days where I feel good about my pixel art and days where I'm like, not quite. That kind of looks like a bucket. It's very subjective. Who cares? Yeah, I agree. Is that overall, this is actually less of a subjectivity thing. It's more of it's hard to show work that's in progress. With anything, if you are an artist or a programmer and you're working on something and it's not quite done yet, it kind of feels awkward to show it off because in your mind, you know what the final product is supposed to look like, and like the version that you're showing off isn't quite there yet. And it's a very hard mental hurdle to kind of get over where you start like being okay with that. Because like obviously now with the stream, I show off in progress stuff all the time. Almost all of my work is in progress. Nothing's finished at this point. That's why it's really tempting. This is not looking very good, by the way. I think that I need to push this out. I could use a ref sheet reference for the bucket shape because this is not looking like a bucket. Okay, let's open up a bucket image. Wooden bucket. See, like these are this is kind of what I had in mind. Like this. Okay. It is like it tapers down and it has a handle. I guess it doesn't need the handle. The Minecraft bucket. Okay, let me look that up. Minecraft bucket. Yeah, I mean, so this is kind of what my bucket already looks like, because this is what I'm saying, is that this is going to be the icon for the bucket, but the bucket itself looks like that. This is what the bucket looks like when it's being used as a held item. And really, this bucket that I made looks pretty similar to the Minecraft bucket. It doesn't look that much different. The trick that I'm trying to figure out is how can I make the bucket look nice, when it's in this like icon format, you know. Made a bush yesterday in Ace Sprite and my friend thought it was a booger. That's unfortunate. I guess color choice can do that. It's all about like the shading and texture that can help with that stuff, or add some flowers to it. But anyway, this is the bucket I want to make. But I might struggle a little bit with that. We're gonna try again. I'm gonna get rid of all of this. Such a nice song. How could anyone be stressed with music like this? I think the first thing that's wrong is that it's not symmetrical. Kind of looks odd like this. What's the software? It's Ace Sprite. There we go. I'm gonna try and... like, this bucket here, it tapers down, so I'm gonna try and do the same thing. And actually, it should probably be even more tapered than this. That might be too much, but we'll see. Really scratching the old brain for this one. Okay, now I need to make it look more rounded. See, it's tricky making things look rounded when everything's made of squares. That is definitely the challenge of pixel art. Ooh, that's not good. That's not good. Maybe it shouldn't taper. Or maybe the taper comes naturally. Okay, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try getting rid of the taper. I think the taper does come naturally. I'm gonna try this. Because of the angle. I think that's better. I just found out Pygame doesn't have a set rotation function. A set rotation function. Dude, like, so this is the thing. Is when you're using a game framework, there's not built-in functions to do things like that. Have I watched F1 yesterday? I'm not sure what that is. Love 2D doesn't have a set rotation function either. Like, I don't know what you mean by that. There are objects in my game that have rotation. So objects in my game have rotation. Spin is what it is that vessels have spin. And I have this .rot value, but this isn't something that Pygame would provide for you. There wouldn't be... Like, I don't think that this is a problem with Pygame. I think that you are expecting a little bit too much from the framework. The framework is just there to provide a way for you to implement your own code. If you want a set rotation function, you need to implement it. In fact, I think that I implemented one here. Set rot equals... I have a rotate function, so I have this rotate function. And this is something that I implemented myself. So I don't think that limitation of like set rotation, unless you're talking about like a specific physics library, there might be a set rotation function built into the physics library in Love 2D where it specifically rotates the body. Displacing the system for the pencil and stuff have a set grid. So it does not have a set grid for the pencil. It has a grid, as you can see, for the texture like the water. So I can only place, whoops, what the heck? Look at that! It's shooting fire! It's shooting fire because it's like caching the torch. That was weird. Let me clear that. That's a bug. Okay, let's fix that. That was no good. Okay, we're back. That was weird. Also, the hitboxes for the water is so messed up. So all of this stuff is on a grid. But then you asked about the pencil. The pencil and any props, anything that's like decoration that's not built into the tiles or the grid system, that is not confined to any sort of grid. So I can place this right here, and you can see it has like sub-pixel movement. If you zoom in really far, you can see that like this overlaps with the pixels in like a very fine way. There's that. Yeah, regarding Pygame and like the set rotation, it's tricky to figure out what options does the engine provide and what options does it not provide that you need to provide for yourself. The beauty of using a framework like Love 2D or Pygame or Monogame is that it's very lightweight. It doesn't provide a set rotation function because rotation is a concept that you invent. Rotation is not something that is built into the engine. It's built into some of the rendering functions. Like you can pass a rotation value into love.graphics.draw or the Pygame draw function, I'm sure. But in terms of like storing rotation values for objects, that's something that you have to do yourself. The speed of the rotation, the direction of the rotation, these are things that's not built into any of these frameworks. But maybe like Unity or Godot, those might have classes built into the engine that handle these like rotation things where you don't have to implement all this stuff yourself. But I kind of like that I do it myself because now the code base only has things that are needed. And it's also implemented in a way that suits the code base. Did I fix the sprite issues for elevated terrain? Not completely, no. It's still kind of weird and jank sometimes when you mix different elevation types. So if I go over to this, and I go over to the elevation view, so this is how, like, I think that this is a really convenient way to design the levels where you go to this elevation view. But what the person was talking about is that when I combine, like, 2s and 1s together like this, it gets a little bit bad look. Yeah, like, look at that. The tiles are not blending properly because right now it kind of assumes, like, the algorithm that I made for creating the tiles, it does assume that they're all collectively, like, in groups of the same elevation. So it's going to take a bit of work for me to actually account for this, where it needs to check for neighboring elevations to see if they can blend in some way that's useful. Have I watched F1 yesterday? F1 equals Formula 1. Oh, no, I've never seen Formula 1 before. I'm talking about rendering with a rotation. There's no such thing. I am really skeptical. I will, in fact, I will help you look. Pygame draw rotation. To rotate an image in Pygame, you can use pygame.transform.rotate. Yeah, so Pygame has transform, which is this class that's used to change the position and scale and orientation of whatever asset is being rendered. So in this case, you're going to use transform to make adjustments to whatever asset that you're trying to draw. And you'll probably want to use this pygame.transform.rotate to rotate an image. In this case, your image is your sprite or your player or whatever thing that you're using. If you're drawing a rectangle, it's possible it doesn't set a rotation, it just alters it by a value. Then that makes it sound like you're not actually applying this value to whatever it is that you're drawing. I don't know enough about Pygame to directly answer your question, but I do know enough about game frameworks to know with certainty that you can rotate images in Pygame. There's just 0% chance that you can't. You definitely can. I don't know how. I agree with you that, like, there's probably some trick to it using that transform class. I'm sure that there's some thing that you need to do so that it collaborates with the sprite that you're trying to draw. But you definitely can rotate sprites in Pygame. I refuse to believe that you can't. So back on this subject is what I'll be doing later on is making it so that these 1s can blend properly into these 3s. This one actually looks okay. It's bugged. Top 3 favorite Steam games. Ooh, that's a good question. Let me open up my Steam because I should be signed in. What's the purpose of a JSON file and how is it used in game dev? That's an awesome question. I love talking about that stuff. So a JSON file is what I use for save data, and I would say it's a pretty common file type to use for save data. So when you have a game that has saves, so in my case, I have like the slot 1, and I have all this stuff. So the player, it keeps track of what position the player is at, their XY position, what color they currently have equipped, what weapons they have, and I chose to save this data as a JSON file. It does have to be saved as some file, either a text file. For a while I was using a .lua file, but I decided to use a .json file so that all these properties get saved to JSON. And the reason I chose JSON is because, one, JSON is very standardized. It's really widely used, especially in like the web space, for organizing data, because all that JSON is it's a text file. This is strictly a text file. This isn't a code file. JSON isn't code. All that JSON is, it's a markup language. It's like HTML. It's a markup language. All that it does is text that's organized nicely. So if I change this player.json to a .text file, it wouldn't really be that much different. But JSON is a standardized way to format this text. As you can see, it has all of these like curly braces and the square braces and all these quotes for the different values. JSON is a standardized way to organize text. So when my game goes to save and load data from these JSON files, it can read that JSON with confidence that it's going to be organized in this way. Every JSON file on the planet is organized with this syntax. And so my data.lua can read from that file with confidence. If this player.json was actually just a .txt, a text file, or a Lua file, I guess a Lua file is standardized, but if it was a text file, you wouldn't have this standardization to it. It would just be a bunch of text, and loading it in wouldn't be as clear-cut. Then the reason, like, why didn't I use a .lua file? Because my game is a Lua-based game. Why don't I use a Lua file? And I decided not to use Lua because Lua is a scripting language. You can use Lua to execute commands and do things on your computer, and I felt that using Lua for save data was overkill. JSON is not a coding language. It is just for data storage, where Lua can have logic, it can have scripts, and that opens up some security risks, I think. Where JSON does not really have security risks as much, because you can't execute JSON. You can execute Lua files. So like what I'm getting at is, I was kind of worried that potentially someone could save some malicious data to their .lua files, and then it could be executed in some sort of hack. And I think that, I don't think that that could happen, but it's less likely. I think it's even less possible with JSON, because JSON really is just text. You probably need to rotate it every time the game updates by like 1 degree. Yeah, I'm pretty confident that that user was just missing something with how rendering things in Pygame works. My top 3 favorite Steam games. Oh, sorry, it was loading up. I got distracted. So if we go over to my library, I got all kinds of games. I'd say my number 1 game is Moonshire. That's number 1. Number 2, I'll say Inscription. I really, really like Inscription. And then number 3, I think it's gonna be Undertale. I like Undertale a lot. So I think those 3 games are my 3 answers. And okay, maybe Moonshire's not done yet. Let's say that let's not include early access or demos. Then I'll say Slay the Spire. I actually haven't played it on Steam yet. I played it on Xbox Game Pass, and then I lost my file, so I don't have it anymore, which is sad. 550 hours, holy? Oh, holy cow. Yeah, I play Moonshire a lot. So the funny thing about this is that sometimes it tracks. When I'm running the game through my VS Code editor, sometimes it does successfully connect with Steam, and it logs these hours. So that's why it says 550, because sometimes when I'm running locally, it does connect to it, and so when I'm like doing dev work or testing things out, it's just like racking up the hours. But this is not the total number of hours that I spent working on the game, because it doesn't normally connect to Steam. Most of the time it doesn't, because I don't normally have Steam open. Most of the time I leave Steam closed, because I noticed that whenever it connected through Steam, it caused like some sort of hiccup, so I liked having Steam closed. Did I hear Undertale? Yes, you did. I love Undertale too. I'm a big fan of it. Back to the bucket. We need to get back into bucket mode. I think that this shape looks pretty decent. I'm going to save that progress real quick. Also, by the way, you can see that it's saved as a PNG, but now I'm adding frames to it. These frames don't actually save through the PNG, so if I want to save, I need to actually get rid of the frames. What do I think of Raylib? I actually don't know anything about it. I never used it. I know people asked about it on stream a few times, but I've never actually taken a look. I really should. I love the rake. I love the rake that it's just like a big flat scraper. Because I don't know how to add the maybe I could do like no, that doesn't read. That doesn't look like a rake. Because like the spokes are so small. Okay, I'll keep experimenting with it. But shouldn't it have individual rakers like scrapers? Yeah, that's the problem, is that, like, how do I do that? Because everything in the game has an outline. This is the problem. Everything in the game has an outline. So how do I... Dips in the original outline? This is a step in the right direction, maybe. And someone said dips in the original. I could try that too. Like, make it like that. Okay. Maybe try making dips straight. I don't know. Straight. Well, the problem with straight is that it can't stay straight for very long. This is getting too messy now. Now it's just like a checkerboard because I went too far with it. I think that it's kind of getting there if I clean this up, maybe. I think that this is a bit too challenging for my feeble mind. So I can do pixel art, but this is a really, really challenging thing to do. Yeah, I think that adding the teeth in the front kind of helped. Let me extend it. That can't work. That's not it. Maybe the green part should be transparent. Oh. I see what you're saying. Okay, we can try that in a second. See, I don't think straight's gonna work because it's gonna be too... There's not enough spokes. There's not enough space to do straight. I might have to call in a professional. Make the teeth transparent. I don't think transparency is the answer here, unfortunately. I see what your goal is. The reason I don't think transparency is going to work here is that it's going to... I just don't think that's going to look good. I don't know how to explain it any more than that. When you mix transparent pixels with opaque pixels, it looks more like a gradient. And I don't think that, like... So maybe... Okay, we'll try this. So if I did, like, a straight line of this, and then I made this inner section semi-transparent. This is not that much different from just making it, just using like a dark green. This is what I mean. Okay, here's why. When you make transparent pixels, all it does is just make the pixels look lighter or darker. So for example, if I put semi-transparent pixels in here, okay, look at that. That doesn't make it look transparent. It just makes it look like I'm using a lighter shade of green right here. Like, this is what the transparent pixel looks like in practice, is that it kind of just, it looks a little muddy. Like, the background shines through, but when the background shines through, the appearance kind of just feels like the color shading is off. So I kind of want to try this without using transparency, and instead, like, we can still use that concept where it's like we'll use a darker shade for the in-between spokes. Looking at pixel arts of rakes for inspiration. Yes, I did actually, and I'll go ahead and show that. Is that the pixel art rakes use a different kind of take on it. Pixel art rake. They use like these short rakes. Like this. I think this is cute. This is very cute. This is really cute too. So the tactic they used here is like the 1 pixel spokes. They actually do have black outlines separating the different spokes. And I think that something like that could be carried in through here. Which, by the way, if this is the only way I could get a pixel art rake to work, I would do this. I think that this looks fine. But when I was growing up, the rake that I had at our house was a big green plastic rake that looked like this. And I loved it. I would swing it around like a sword. I guess I could try adding like this pixel lattice. This kind of... No, I can't do that. There's a difference between the cheap Walmart rakes for leaves and actual rakes and farms. Yeah, I bet. When I was growing up, we had a very large, it was like a farmhouse yard. So we had a lot of raking to do. Honestly, this looks better than any other attempt that I've done so far. It's still a little weird. I'm not fully satisfied, but I think this does kind of read as a rake now compared to before. It's still weird. What if it was a different tool, like maybe a hoe or something? Yeah, and in fact, I actually made a hoe, but the thing is I want to use the hoe for something different. So I have a hoe here. And actually, did I make the final tool for it? I didn't actually make the holdable version, but I made the icon for it. I want the hoe to be used for creating plants. So in the same way that I want the bucket to be used for creating water, and I want the hoe to be used for adding like the grasses. The rake is used for the ground texture. So I like add more teeth to the rake. There's not much space for it. It is like, where do I add the teeth at, unfortunately? I guess I could... I don't think that's it. I don't know how I can add more teeth to this. Because I can't move this one up. That's gonna be too far. It's too straight. I guess I could move it out, maybe? Like this? Actually, that's kind of okay. Maybe I could use... Oh, that's the same thing. Kind of going back and forth on this. I don't think I like that. This pixel fits in okay, but adding the big adding the big L, I don't think it's gonna work. Howdy doodly do. What am I drawing? I'm trying to draw a rake. Like the funny thing is, a rake is so hard to draw in pixel art because like a rake has spokes. I like this take though. This take of a rake is pretty cool. So I might be fixating a little bit too much on like my green big plastic rake idea, but this is okay. Can you leave spots that don't have pixels? Okay, we can try that. I don't think it's gonna work because I typically only do that in areas that are surrounded by black pixels. I don't think it's gonna look good when I remove like a section like this. Or maybe it doesn't have to be like that much. It could be like partial. I don't know if that... I don't think transparency or see-throughness is going to help, unfortunately. Because, like, a big plastic rake... I should have left it up. A big plastic rake, like, you can barely see through the spokes there, and that's what makes it so hard with pixel art, is that the pixels are so big, I can't make... if I add any holes, the holes are too big. That's my big problem here. Make the teeth no pixels. I think that I'm going to leave it like this for now. I think that this is okay. And I'm going to go back to working on the bucket. That cut into the rake. Yeah, that's kind of what I did up here. Is that before it was like a straight line. And my problem is I don't know how to make it cut in for these, like for this section up here. Because these teeth at the top look fine, but that's only because it's straight. As soon as it gets crooked or curved, it starts to get harder to work with. Could I add building? Yeah, so there's like, you can add extra things like that. So there's building and level design, stuff like that. Add a more transparent color to give the illusion that there's a gap there. I unfortunately don't think it's gonna work because when I change the transparency of a pixel, it just makes it look like a different shade of color. And I showed this a second ago. I'll show it again real quick, just so I can demonstrate. So like this color of green, and we'll do the semi-transparent, and I'll do it like that. Okay, so I added the transparent pixel to the spoke, and right now it looks okay, but that's just because it looks like a different shade of green. Like, look at this. The transparency, I don't think the transparency helps sell the illusion of holes in the spokes. I think that clever use of shading will. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Is I'm still not quite sold that transparency is the answer here. It might work when there's a background in the game. It does help, you're right, but I'll keep trying is all I'll say. Live pixel art. Defected, hi, welcome in. So I'm gonna go back to trying this bucket. That's so awkward. I think that maybe I could do like this, maybe? Oh, God. Looks so weird. I think that I know what the problem is. It what the heck? It needs to taper off the top a little bit, where I can't have this one right like that. I need to have it like this. Might be talking about have I beaten the demo? I have beaten the demo, yeah. It's been a while though. Now the bucket's getting too small because it needs. Ideally, it would take up most of this space. So let me try like just stretching it out and seeing what happens. No. Before I do that, let me take another snapshot. Looks like a rock. Yeah, I know. When you stretch pixels out, you always have to adjust it. Stretching pixels out never really works right away. I need to tape this back in, so this stuff needs to be... It's kind of ugly. So late today? No worries. I have more efficient way to get gold. Yeah, I mean, at the moment, if you're talking about the Steam demo is so outdated. I wouldn't worry about that. Yeah, the process of getting gold is gonna be a lot different. I think I need to make the bottom flatter. You'll be back when it looks like a bucket? Well, you might not be back then. We'll see. Hopefully I can make it work. I think it'll come together. I like this shape. You know, I know that you guys might not be able to see the vision, but this shape looks right to me. Why is the bucket round? Because what I'm doing is I have all of these icons in the game that are diagonal, like this shovel and this signpost and this hoe, and now I'm adding bucket to it. And buckets are smaller than like a shovel. This pickaxe is another example. This pickaxe is small. And I'm trying to make a bucket that is also tilted in the same direction, see? So this is what the outline of the bucket's gonna be. A diagonal bucket, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. So like this pickaxe is diagonal, and this bucket is diagonal, so it's just leaning to the side. I might even have like water dripping out of it. Why aren't I using the circle tool then? Well, I mean, this isn't a circle, is it? That's why. Am I adding hoes that thought the game would be family friendly? I'll go ahead and show that. That's just funny. That's just some good old-fashioned content. Also, I did add a... you can see, actually, it worked. I added a profanity filter to my chat overlay. So it definitely worked, because you're... Really, Kyle, you're adding hoes. Yeah, see? Look. What's wrong with that? You can see the vision. Thank you. I'm glad that you can see the vision, too. It's getting there. The other vision is... I had a reference earlier, but I must have gotten rid of it. Wooden bucket. It's going to be a 3D bucket. Is that my intention? Yeah. Is that it's not going to be a flat shape. I'm trying to do a perspective. Kind of like these. See, like, this isn't really a circle shape, and it's not really flat either. It's a three-dimensional, like, curvy. Like, look at this. This is like a circle. It's like an oval shape, right? This is the vision I have in mind for this, where it's also kind of like a rounded circle shape for the bucket. So that's kind of why I'm making the shape the way it is. Hopefully that kind of clarifies why I drew it the way it is. It's a cylinder that's stretched out on one end. Yeah, exactly. And it's tapered towards the bottom. Like, this is kind of the shape that I'm going for. What will you be able to do with the bucket is you can add water to the different scenes. And I did show this on stream a little bit. Drawing diagonal lines in pixel art is such a pain. Yeah, it is. So you take the bucket, and then you can add more water. This is what the bucket does. The bucket is just another level design tool. So that's what the bucket does. And that's what the bucket looks like when you're holding it. So the bucket looks normal, like on this top-down perspective, but here I'm trying to make it diagonal, right? That's why it's challenging. And using the circle tool, because someone mentioned the circle tool earlier, the circle tool can kind of help, but it doesn't help with like angled circles. Because the shape we're getting in here isn't quite a circle or an ellipse. It's a tilted circle or ellipse. It would be like if I took a circle shape and then rotated it after the fact. So it's not really a clean. It's not going to be a clean circle or ellipse that fits in here. That's why I can't really use the circle tool. But I understand why someone suggested that. I'm wondering, should I use a black outline for this, or should I use like the texture of the color itself? So let me get the wood color. I love this song, by the way. In the hand, it looks more like a flower pot filled with water. That's fine, as long as it communicates as some kind of receptacle for holding water. That's okay, because in order for it to be more bucket shape, it would need to be taller. And it's already pretty tall. Like, I think it looks fine. It looks more like a bowl, I guess. Or like a basin, I guess. Rather than a bucket. So, like, this might help with clarifying the vision, is that the water is going to go here. Like, around this edge. Ezio, hi, welcome in. It looks good. Thank you. I think it's getting there. I think the shape is starting to come together. Ooh. I think that I need a darker shade of brown for around the border. And actually, I'm going to try and keep it 1 pixel border. I don't need it to be any bigger than that. That's pretty good. That's kind of not good, actually. I'm not too fond of that. I think that you wouldn't actually... I think that actually this edge wouldn't be dark, because this is just the top side. That makes more sense to my brain. Maybe actually this one should be blue. Oh yeah, the other thing, I wanted to make it like spill out like that. Now it looks like a pitcher. What's the Lord of Moonshire? It's not really confirmed yet. You might try to see how Minecraft creators do it. At least I'd check out some guidance, inspiration personally for like the drawing these weapons and stuff. I could, and even though I do kind of struggle with pixel art sometimes, I am happy with how I normally do get with a decent looking end product, even if it's not perfect right away. Like this shovel, I think this shovel looks really nice, and I drew this pretty much entirely myself. I started with a baseline, like I think that the handle, or like this wood part, kind of came from one of the other tools, but the head shape and the texture on it, I love this shovel. The shovel is peak, thank you. I would love to make the bucket on the same level as the shovel, but I don't know if I can. Also, I hear it playing some Metroid music. I just finished Metroid Prime 4, and it was okay. Mythical Rock, that comment's definitely not allowed. Do I think your pixel art abilities have improved since I started? Oh, definitely. In fact, I would even say, like, within the past year or 2 years, I feel so much more comfortable doing pixel art than I did just a couple years ago. I really struggled hard doing any sort of artwork, and now I feel like I can make sprites from scratch now. It's still a process, and it takes me a long time. Like, even this bucket, this is taking a long time. I'd say that my biggest problem with pixel art is that it takes me a very long time, but I can normally get to a pretty decent looking end result after spending, like, several hours on something. So, really from here, the main goal is just to get a little bit more efficient with it. But yes, I do think that after spending so much time doing pixel art, I've been getting better, and I love it. I love it. Let's take another look at the real bucket, because my bucket doesn't really look like a bucket. I guess it could have the lines, like the wood lines. That would help. That would definitely help, actually. That's kind of ugly, but I don't like that. I don't like that. Maybe there, actually, I think there needs to be a brighter shade of this too, like around the edge. And then I think I'm gonna change that back one back to the regular one, or we'll blend it in. A handle? Yeah, I'll probably add a handle. Maybe I could, you know, I think part of the problem is that the water is right at the very surface. Like when you have water in a bucket, it doesn't go to the very tip-top surface. You leave some space in there. I think that's kind of part of the problem here. So I need to add some like, this is gonna be hard. I don't even know how to do this. I don't like adding more colors. That's not really what I want to do. I think that kind of helps, though. How do I pronounce Chalcade? I say Chalcade. But I think that it's perfectly cool to say Chalcade or I don't say, I think some people say Chalisade and I don't say that. Also, this looks like a bucket now. Suddenly something changed where it suddenly looks more like a bucket. The shadow on the water, yeah, I think I should do that too. Because it's too flat. And that's too dark. Oh, that looks cool. Maybe the edge should be black. I don't think I want to make the edge black because the border is black. I think that I need to make... I think I could add some like gray texture or some kind of band because if I look at this, all of these, they have like the metal ring that holds the boards together. I think that would be a good thing to include. Also, I don't like the color that I chose for this. I want to make it a little bit less bad. There we go. I also don't like the shape of that. I guess that looks okay. Would it look better with like really fine ones? No, that doesn't look good. Leveling off the water a bit in line with gravity. I think that I kind of... So are you talking about like how there's a bump at the top of this here? Because in this pose where it's pouring, I think it makes sense to have a bit of a surface tension curve up there. Flood dynamics over gravity. I think that that's kind of what I'm saying, yeah. But maybe this pixel here. Well, that makes it look like it's... That makes it look too thick. that made it look like a... This makes it look like I'm pouring syrup out of it. So maybe adding a little bit less surface tension makes it look flatter. Finally fixed the rotation issue? Awesome, I'm glad. I don't like the shaded color of the water. It's too desaturated. The shape of the hole looks like... Oh, I'm not gonna... It's fine. I mean, it feels like it chooses the rotation anchor at random, but it rotates. It's gonna probably set it to the upper left corner of the image. And then you need to set the OXOY, or the offset. This is starting to come together. What's my favorite game engine or framework after Love 2D? Probably Game Maker. I used Game Maker a lot when I was growing up, and I still think it's really good. I haven't used it for a long time, but that's the, it's mainly just Love 2D and Game Maker that I've ever used. I tried out, like when I was first figuring out what framework to switch to, I tried out all of them. I tried out Unreal and Unity. Godot wasn't out at the time, and I tried out Monogame. Well, I used Monogame a lot. I have a course on it, in fact. But Love 2D is the one that I really like the most. I pronounce it as Chalisaud. Yeah, I say Chalicade, like arcade. It's probably because of scaling. Maybe. So, this is looking okay. I think it needs some gray, or like, some of the metal gray silver bands. Although gray, what color do they use here? They're not really gray, they're like dark. This one uses brown, that might look good. Yeah, some of these use like a copper or wooden band, and that might look better on this. In fact, I might even just be able to do something like this. It's not curving enough. That looks bad. The bucket looks insane. I'm glad. I hope insane is a good thing in this case. Some buckets use loose steel bands to keep the wood tight around the center. Yeah, I was looking at some of these examples where there's like, some of them have a metal band and some of them have copper or wood. This one has like a rope band. So there's lots of options. Really, also, should I add a handle? We were talking about a handle. Where should the handle go? A handle might not look good. I don't know how I can make a handle because, like, look, a handle would have to attach like here, and I don't think that's gonna look very good. I might wait on that. Oops, I accidentally saved. I'm not supposed to save. There we go. There we go. Maybe a black band? No, that's too harsh. I can try like a steel gray. I'm gonna make it a shade of this color though. Oh. That is kind of, I think that's the right direction. Let me try and make this cleaner though. That looks good. I think that really ties it together. I need to find a better color for it though. Whoop. It needs to be like a dark gray. I've seen enough Kyle's ready to make some pixel art for Nintendo. I mean, that'd be really cool. I'd love to do a collab on a Nintendo game. But it is funny because, like, I wouldn't say art is my primary focus. I would say tech and coding more is. But I love learning new skills, and it's been really, really fun getting better at pixel art. Okay, let's clean this up a little bit more because I changed how this works now. Am I gonna keep the black outline? Yes, the black outline stays. I'm still not sold on this dumb band color. It's like, I feel like it's blending in too much. It does need 2 colors, actually. I can't just have one. That's too dark. It makes it look too straight, though. Man, I can't get rid of... Whoops. I can't get rid of this pixel here, though. Otherwise, it's gonna... Or can I? I guess I can. I think now I added too much texture this time. It's actually a unique problem I don't normally have. Maybe try making it dark brown instead of gray. Okay. I mean, I think that would blend better. Let's try like a dark, like something like this. I think that will blend better. You're right. I like that idea. We're gonna do that. And I'm gonna use like a shade of orange. It needs to be more. It needs to be more striking. Maybe brighter. Something about the gray really feels like a bucket to me. I'm gonna keep trying to make the gray look good. I think that looks nice. I'm just gonna stick with this for now. Oh. No, I can't do that. Whoop. No. Okay, before I do that, I'm gonna save because I'm starting to really change it, but I think it's gonna look more like a bucket if I do this. I kind of like how it looked before. Yeah, this has a good bucket shape to it. I like it. I think I like it too. I think that it's in pretty good shape. Looks more like a barrel. Yeah, it looked too barrelish, too like fattish, like a fat shape. I think that this is a nice taper to it. Maybe a handle would help. Let's see if I can find a way to make a good looking handle. Maybe I can like have it, because ideally, the handle would attach like this at a diagonal. Okay. So if it attaches at a diagonal, then it has to attach... Oh, it's not going to attach there. That's not good. This is my problem with the handle, is that where do I attach it? Wait, do they all have black outlines? Yeah, everything in my game has black outline. I think I'm going to struggle having a handle because I don't know where to put it. I guess maybe this way? And it doesn't read. Even if I move this down to make more room, I don't know if that's gonna help much. Because, yeah, this is my main thing, is I just don't know where to attach it. Okay, actually it would need to... Adele, I really should implement that, like, feature. I think that would be awesome. Because I like the song a lot, too. I'm really nostalgic for Pokemon Coliseum. Oh, I guess this is XD. This song was in Coliseum as well, though. Monmeat, I welcome in. I was just drawing some pixel art. I made this bucket, and I think it looks good. I think the bucket looks great. So we're gonna see how it looks in game. I think it should automatically load in because it has the name bucket. So I go over here and I grab a bucket. Yeah, I think that looks okay. Maybe this one pixel right here. The water looks weirdly square on the right corner. It does a little bit, yeah, because in this case, it's like riding up against the edge of the tip of the bucket. So it does kind of... Yeah, it's not perfect. I still think it looks good. Maybe the bottom of water can be darker blue instead of black. No, it can't. Because I see what you're saying. You're saying that we'll do like this, instead of having the black outline down here, and I really, that's just not an option. Yeah, it needs to be consistent with the design language of the game. Everything has an outline. It feels too jarring, because here's an example that I also struggled with, is the torch. When the fire on the torch doesn't have an outline, it feels like the sprite doesn't fit into the rest of the game. Because the design language of the game says that physical objects have an outline, and fire and water, that's like, it's like a middle ground, right? Fire doesn't really have an outline, and water doesn't really have an outline either, but things in my game do. So I really do think it needs to stay. Mommy, your message said something weird. How do you animate your attacks? How do you use keyframes for weapons? Or do I use keyframes for weapons to draw the player? Yeah, that's an awesome question. The way I have it set up is that the... Where is it? So every attack is assigned an animation like swing. So this animation has 3 frames where the player is swinging the sword. And then... Oh, and trigger frame. So... the attack actually execute, like the hitbox, execute on frame 2 of this animation. So this is like the wind-up frame, this is the swing frame, and this is the recover frame. And so the hitbox are going to come out on frame 2 because I assigned it at trigger frame 2. And then the mob draw weapon... The weapon has to reorient itself. There's no weapon here? Words be. No, it's not this either. Oh, here it is. Oh, adjust weapon. Okay. This needs to move. All of this code... Oh, this sucks. All of this code is located in the hero.lua file. I don't want it to be there. This should be a part of mobs. In fact, that's why I checked mob draw, because I thought that that's where this function was. I didn't realize I actually have it hard-coded into hero. So right now, in the current format of this code, only the hero, like this player character, is able to hold items, but I want it so that any NPC can hold stuff. I don't want it to just be... suppose that's the challenge of having a specific style. It is, and it's a challenge of having the restrictions of a, the restrictions of pixel art. You only have a limited number of pixels to work with, and you know that sometimes works out where it forces you to think outside the box. Is what I'm saying, is because you're limited in the number of pixels that you have. You kind of have to make strange and unique design decisions that sometimes work out in the end. Have we talked about Pong yet? Yes, we have. Does the water reflect light from the torch? Just wondering. Not exactly. Right now, what is it? The lighting system is very bare bones, but the light does, like, you can, oh, that's super messed up because the hitboxes are wrong. But you can see that the, like, well, it's buggy, but you can see that the light source is lighting up the water. The light does light it up a little bit. But man, so many problems just here. When you go, like you can see the smoke is still smoking, and there's still a light source. Lots of things I need to fix. And the hitbox for the water is super wrong. Is you need to know this, Love GD. Also, there's a lot of things I need to tweak. We were talking about knockback earlier in the stream. Also, is it actually 12:10? I completely lost track of time. Is it actually time? We're 10 minutes over. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Man, this stream flew by. I think I was working on the bucket for more time than I thought, and I realized the stream went by fast. I was in the zone. That definitely is it, the flow state. I love getting into the flow state. I'm able to stay in the flow state too whenever I'm doing pixel art. I was talking about how whenever I do coding on stream, I have trouble focusing because I start coding and then I read chat and then it kind of disrupts my flow state. But with pixel art, I really do feel like I'm able to keep drawing and then reading chat and then going back and forth. It works out really nicely. Is we have to do 1 hour overtime? I don't think so. I'm pretty hungry. I'm gonna go get my food. But I really do appreciate all of you guys being here today. It was a really good stream, and I'm happy we were able to get this icon made. It worked out nice. I'm going to try and watch the stream every week, but I'm in a different time zone. Yeah, I understand. I try to choose a time zone that worked decently for everyone, but I think especially for, like, China and Asia, it's going to be it's going to be, like, the middle of the, like, AM, like 2 a.m. or something like that. What am I getting for lunch? I always go get McDonald's for McDonald's Moonshire Monday, and that's what I'm going to go do right now, and I'm going to call it quits for the day. But like I said, thank you all so much for being here. It was a really good stream. Thank you to Yupa Stuff, Kreman, Wolf, Hru, Adele, Bean Juice, and everyone else that were commenting. I appreciate all of you folks for being here. Lots of returning folks, lots of regulars. I really love having you all here. And I will be back next week for yet another Moonshire Monday. Bye, everyone.